Ba, 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 ba. Hello, everybody. Yeah, welcome back to another week of Unhinged Christian. I'm trying to mess around with the different sounds. I'm trying to see where I fit. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said last week, everybody just be patient, please and thank you, please and thank you. So just to recap last week. Last week I had the word that reads itself, goldfish. Last week, um, first I want to start off by thanking everybody for support. It made me feel so warm and gushy and ushy inside that so many people really enjoy. I don't even want to say care about what I have to say, but just enjoy it and find it relatable. That's definitely my entire steez of this podcast is to make people feel basically at home. So thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. Tell your mammy, your pappy, your granny, your aunts, uncles, TTs, cousins, tias, nias, all of that. Tell everybody. That crazy girl has something to say. um, yeah, so just recapping last week, running away from the things that don't serve you, which also don't serve God, and dating. Oof. Definitely not going to run it back again because that was enough last week. I think we're all in agreement. So this week's topic, similar to every episode that seems to be fitting, seems to fill the gaps. Topic number 1, perfection does not equal acceptance. I think that a lot of us hold ourselves, oh, sorry, y'all. I got a pen this time and some notes. I think a lot of us hold ourselves to an unattainable standard. I think they're very much man made standards. And we feel as though unless we attain these standards, then we're not to be accepted. Or often we're trained to think that if we don't attain these standards, then we won't be accepted by society. And, you know, just even as kids, you do this thing, you wear that to be cool, you say this to be cool, play this sport or know this song or this video game, and you're considered cool. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing in the adult world. That's what I'm finding is that you have to fit a certain mold, or at least we are still convinced that you have to fit a certain mold to be accepted by society. And I don't know if y'all looking around, but it's real ghetto outside. I wouldn't even want to consider being accepted right now. It's definitely spooky hours outside for sure. Tying this into the message, I feel as though as a young Christian, so slide that in there, that we often lose sight of the fact that God accepts us where we are, how we are. I'm talking about homeless, the richest man in the world, wearing Gucci, wearing city trends. God doesn't care about all that stuff. And once we begin to deprogram our minds into believing that I have to be a, a real Christian to be accepted by God, I have to be a real this and I have to achieve this goal and make this accolade and blah, 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 blah. Once we deprogram our minds of these human and man made standards, it's so easy to see and to attain the goal at which it is to be accepted in a space that's safe for all people, not middle class, lower class, the one percenters. Like none of that stuff matters. And I think if we as people adopted that as a whole life concept, like your status does not define how good of a person you are. What you do is what defines your character. Not how much money you make, not what kind of car you drive, not what kind of clothes you put on. None of that stuff, that's all materialistic stuff. None of that stuff matters to God because he didn't birth you with the Gucci on. He didn't birth you and as soon as you came out the womb, you had a Benz C300 car key in your hand. He didn't do that. God didn't place us here to idolize materialistic things. Yet in reverse, as you're growing up, That is what's put in front of you. That's what's glamorized. That's what's front line on, oh, you made it. This is how you're successful. This is how you do it. That's not the case at all. God accepts you at your lowest, at your highest, at your midway point, even when you feel so lowly that you don't even feel worthy. Because I'm sure all of us have been there. I'm sure all of us have been in a space where it's like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Like, I just don't feel worthy. I don't feel this. I don't feel that. It's because you're not doing the things that align you with God to help clear your mind and help you understand that God doesn't care about any of that stuff. He just wants you to show up. Like the saying, come as you are, when they say that in church, yet somehow Black folks, we always tend to come in our literal Sunday best. Literally, God just wants you to come as you are. He don't want you to come already praying and already fasting, reading your Bible 3 times a day. Not to say he doesn't want you like that, but it's not a requirement. And we need to apply that to life. Having those things, the things that we can touch and move around, those tangible, those are things. And those things do not define who we are as people. So why do we let them? Why is it that, oh, if I don't have this car, if I don't have this house by 25, then what have I done? What have I? Stop letting materialistic things define your experience and your path in life. Where you are is exactly where you are supposed to be because that's how God operates. And instead of looking towards what you don't have or looking towards something, not to say that you shouldn't plan for the future, but instead of looking at what you don't have, you need to be grateful in the moment that you're already in because there was a time where you were praying to be in this spot. And a lot of us, we don't take the time to really sit in where we are, not to say to become complacent, but to be appreciative of where you are today, right now. Because there was a moment where you weren't even here. And you was probably on bended knee begging God to be where you are right now. And now that you're here, you can't even glorify him. What are we doing? What's really tea? So perfection does not equal acceptance. Come dirty, clean, it does not matter. God is going to accept you. And I'm going to hit on a topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about. Come gay, come trans, come lesbian, come all of those things. Come bisexual. Come as you are. Those titles, because that's what they are, those titles are to just separate us as people. And honestly, to be a true child of God is to love everybody. Not, I love you if you do this, or I love you if you look like this, or I love you only if. The love of God does not come with stipulations. And once we apply that to our lives as well, how God loves us is how we need to love each other. I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you like. I don't care what you sound like, where you're from. Love is love. So outcasting people because they don't fit your particular mold of being a good Christian or of Christianity as a whole, that's not moving like a child of God. And that needs to be said for sure. I know a lot more homosexual and trans people who have way bigger hearts and way more love than your standard textbook Christian because they've been outcasted and they know what it is to be dismissed as a whole. That's something that in different ways we all go through. But to inflict that kind of pain on people knowingly, that's not love. And I need us as people to remove this concept out of our minds that we're perfect because we're not. We are flawed in every way, flawed from head to toe. And that is okay because we're humans. What is the next step to that is to acknowledge those flaws, acknowledge those shortcomings, take accountability, and then press from there. But that holier than thou, especially in a Christian community, especially in the Black Christian community, that has to go because the same people who are holier than thou and have their nose up at everybody and, oh, I'm better than, or I would never, or blah, 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 blah. There are some things that we are above. I can agree to that. There are some things that you can be above because of the standard you hold yourself to, but that does not make you superior or other people inferior. But what you'll find is that holier than thou group of Christians, usually the most lukewarm. They're usually the ones who come into church, so what, they're there every Sunday. As soon as they walk out, it's they two-stepping back to sinning, backpacking, running right back to their same bad habits, as opposed to the people that have been dismissed and outcast who are actually devoting their life to Christ behind the scenes where nobody sees them, not on the front lines where they can get the most praise for being the most consistent Christian. That don't make you a good Christian. That doesn't make you a good person. Yeah, I touched on that last week. Y'all thought that was over. Huh. No. None of us are perfect, yet all of us are accepted by God. So why is it that that does not translate into the real world? Not to say that, Christianity is not real, because y'all ain't finna cancel me. But why doesn't that translate well into the flesh? Spiritually, yes, everybody can go to church and be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I love everybody. I love God. God loves all of us, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as you walk out the door, it's, oh, I can't stand white people. Oh, I can't associate with him. He gay. Oh, I can't deal with that. You know, that's not of God. Yet you wake up every day and you make a choice to sin, and that's not of God. So what now? Perfection does not equal acceptance. Come as you are with an open heart and an open mind and watch how God transforms you. But the judgmental stuff, we got to let that go. That's not of God. We are in no place to be judging. And I say we because myself included. There have been things that I've said and times where I've been like, whoa, I can't, I won't, I can't, I won't. Until I got into the breath of the love of God and I stood in it and I was still and I spent time with God and I understood that that stuff is minuscule. It does not matter what you look like. It does not matter what you sound like. It does not matter what you prefer. What matters is that your heart is open and your mind is open and that you're being true to who God created you to be. Your journey is not for me to judge. This isn't a marathon. There's not going to be anybody at the finish line on the flesh side. It'll be God, it'll be Jesus at the end. You've never seen a judge at a marathon, ever. Because there's no way to judge a journey. So why are we doing that? Why do us as people feel like we have the power to be like, yeah, I can say this and well, here's my opinion on that, when it really it's not an opinion, it's just a means to degrade and it's a means to belittle, which really in retrospect is projection. Who's belittling you? To where you feel like you have to go out into the world and make people feel as small as you do. Oh, y'all thought I was coming to play this week. I had to bring y'all in. Last week was light and it was fun, and this is still fun, you know. But I don't play that. Okay, we get down to business. I told y'all I was gonna piss a couple of y'all off. I told y'all we was gonna have a good time, but these are things that need to be talked about. These are topics that everybody is shying away from, that nobody wants to speak up on, speak their truth. Everybody has a truth to speak until it's time to say the truth, the real truth. Because your truth and the truth are two totally different things. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, we are quiet today. But I digress. I digress for now, at least. Having this mindset that I have to be this perfect image of blackness, this perfect image of Christianity, and I can only speak to my experience, which is why I'm using those two aspects, have have been the core as to why we have strayed, why I have strayed at times, because I get so caught up in the flesh and pleasing the flesh and pleasing the ego that it's pulled me so far away from what God actually needs me to do and who God actually needs me to be. Which brings me into topic number 2, showing up in all spaces authentically so that you can be blessed correctly. Now, let me tell y'all something, because this ties into last week too. Wouldn't you hate if you showed up somewhere and They had everything that you wanted, that you desired, that you needed. But because you decided not to show up as who you truly are, and you decided to show up in this persona that you've created based on what man needs, everything that they have that you desire and that you want gets placed in somebody else's hands. Ooh, the way my chest would cave in. But that's how it is. That's how God will do you. If you do not show up as who you are, not who you created yourself to be, because those are two different things. And a lot of that has to do with ego and with pride and with just misplaced identity. We fostered our whole beings in what society needs us to be and have just strayed completely away from what God needs us to be. Have you ever noticed you wanted something so bad, but every time you got close to having it or attaining it, life just started to fall apart? Every single time you got close to something that you thought you wanted, be it man, be it job opportunity, be it woman, be it car, be it house. Every time you got close to attaining said goal, everything came crumbling down. That is not by accident. That is because you are trying to achieve something that was never made for you. It was never meant for you. You're trying to be a person that you were never intended to be. So, of course, God is going to throw every wrench that He can in your plan because your plan doesn't align with His plan. So, in order to be blessed correctly, you have to show up authentically. You have to show up yourself. Y'all hear this podcast? This ain't too much scripted. I got notes. But I'm showing up authentically and not even in hopes, because I'm going to touch on that in a second, not in hopes to be blessed, but just because this is who God created me to be. It's gotten to a point where I don't want to show up as anybody else. I don't even have the room. Without God, I've never had the room to show up as anybody else, or the inclination rather. So now it just makes it easier because I understand the purpose behind my authenticity. And boy, once you figure that out, once you see the driving factor and the motivator as to why you should remain who you are and not what the world needs you to be, oh, how the turns will table. You'll start to work and operate in your purpose because it is also God's purpose. And what once was so hard and such a struggle and such a fight, you'll see things will start to flow and happen organically. Not to say that, oh, being true to who I am will remove me of all trials and tribulations. No, because there are certain trials and certain tribulations that you have to go through in order for God to propel you in the direction that is meant for you. However, there's a difference between trials and tribulations and, okay, I'm going to keep revisiting this same pot of crap, hoping that this time or this week, the crap either got a little seasoning on it or it tastes a little different. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result is literal insanity. So allowing your old to pollute your new, and that is in any capacity, work, relational, personal. And people don't want to talk about the family aspect. Especially in the Black community, we think, oh, well, that's the only mom I'm going to get. That's the only dad I'm going to get. If you continuously allow disrespect, if you continuously allow traumas, triggers, degrading, that door to remain open, that is all you will receive. And then when you look up and you're like, why is my life in complete chaos? Why am I falling apart? Why am I always in distress? Look at what you allow in. Look at who you allow in your space. Look at who you have access to, who you allow access to you. All of that stuff matters, especially in the family sense, because really that's what lays the groundwork for every other relationship. Platonic, romantic, work, friendship, all of that, the foundation for those things are laid with your family. So now, if you're the kid who's the people pleaser, who just wants to make everybody happy because you see how stressful it is at home, now you get in your adult life. Now you're in a relationship. and all you know how to do is people please. And now you don't have any boundaries and you've been taken advantage of. And at our big age of 25, we're upset and we're angry. And now I don't want to do anything for anybody. And nobody ever looked out for me. And nobody ever took care of me. And I've just been used and used and used and used. That trails all the way back to your family, to your childhood, to your parents. So you have to think how detrimental it is to have God at a foundation. Because if God is at that foundation, there are things that having God in the foundation of, you won't even have space for the extra. You won't have space for the negative because God is going to take up, He's going to consume that space that you give Him, that He's not going to leave room for anything else to penetrate you at that time. So you have to think, man, if that is the core of it, now I've moved on into adulthood. Now it's no longer your mama's fault or your daddy's fault or your granny's fault as to why you can't be faithful because Grandma Patricia died when you were 7. That's not anybody's fault. Now we're 26, 27, 28 trying to figure out, why is it that I keep getting this? Why is it that I keep going through this or dealing with these type of people? Because you showed up in a space, the only you that you knew was being authentic. But now it goes from foundation to foundation. So maybe your parents gave you a correct foundation. Now, as an adult, it is our responsibility to fill the gaps where we can, and then build our own foundation. Now it is in our hands. And to say that, oh, I'm this way because of what happened to me when I was 6 or what happened to me when I was 10, and that is not in an attempt to belittle anybody's trauma, because trauma is trauma. And that's valid. How you feel is valid. But how you act upon it, moving forward with your life, is not a justification. We can't reach back and justify what we're doing right now and forward, which takes away from how you can authentically show up as yourself. How can you show up as yourself right now if you're using things that happen to you, a version of you that you no longer are, to justify who you are right now? Ooh, you're saying, oh, this happened to me, or this, and this is why I'm this way, in a version that no longer exists in your life. And you're expecting to show up and still be blessed and to still be favored and to still be chosen when you refuse to let go of the old. You've decided that your old is your identity, that your old is what makes you authentic. And that's not true. Who you show up and choose to be today and every day after is dependent on you, and it's dependent on where you invest yourself. Like I said last week, give it to God and watch what He'll do to you. Do to you, do for you, all of the above. But you cannot expect to be blessed correctly. You cannot expect to be blessed correctly. I had to say that twice. If you do not show up authentically, not what you see on Instagram, not what you see on TikTok, not wishing you had the life of Kim Kardashian or anybody else. Their life is not your life. So if you do not put yourself in a space to be true to you and open your mind up and your heart to accept what is for you, you'll never get it. And don't let it be another thing. Don't let you have some kids and they be blessed and anointed. And now God gives them what was meant for you. And now you have to sit and watch sideline to the life that you wanted, but you stood in the way of getting. Ooh, ooh, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. You can be blessed correctly. You, we, all of us. We can all be blessed correctly, but if we do not show up in the capacity that allows us to receive said blessings and show up willing to work for said blessings, we'll never receive them. It'll always be man this and man that, that never happened, and why and why and why. It'll always be why. Never how, but why. Don't allow the old to pollute the new. Don't allow what happened as a child and in your youth define the type of romantic relationships that you'll have. Don't let it define the relationship you have with yourself. We love talking about being in love and having other people. What about the relationship with ourselves? What about the person we wake up to every day and how we tend to that person and their needs and their wants and their desires before anyone else? Without a foundation, we don't know how to give love or receive love. And when I say love, I mean a genuine, raw, authentic. I've been wearing that word out this podcast. This episode, me and the word authentic, we go together real bad, for sure. But seriously, we don't know how to give or receive a God like love if we don't have a foundation with God. And even in 1 Corinthians 13:6, it says, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. So, how can you expect to have that type of love if you're not even residing in your truth? Hmm. You're looking for a love even within yourself, but there is no truth. There's no truth in who you are. There's no truth in the person that God created you to be because you have plastered yourself with this facade of who the world wants you to be, not who God needs you to be. But in turn, who God needs you to be is really who we need ourselves to be, so that way we can achieve the goals that we desire, because we can't do that without God. Not in the long run. It may be working for you right now, and wherever you are, I love that for you. But long term, you will not get where you want to go if there's no God incorporated. And that's just my truth. That is my truth. I'm not here to, like I told y'all in the first episode, I'm not no preacher. I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm just giving y'all my testimony and what I know to be true for me. But yeah, that is the close of today's episode. It was a little heavy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was a little heavy, but my heart was heavy. I feel like, yes, it is good to have fun and it's good to receive God in all forms. And yes, I'm laughing and this is great and I'm enjoying myself. But also, there is a real read. And sometimes some of us really need to be read down. Like, yes, what I'm doing is unacceptable and what I'm doing is taking me further and further away from God, which is in turn taking me further and further away from my goals, away from my dreams. And there is always going to be a connection of the two. Where we place ourselves authentically is where God will accept us. He'll accept all versions of you, fake, new, old, all of it. But in order to receive what is truly for us, we have to operate in our organic state, not the state that has been built around societal demands, man made standards. There is beauty in being you, not who people want you to be, but just being you. Show up as you. And if sometimes you have to show up as you and that entails saying no to people, that's just what it is. If being you means enforcing boundaries that you've never had to enforce, that's just what it is. Don't let people and their opinions on who you should be deter you from your inclination on who God created you to be. Never let people take you away from who you want to be, because more times than not, they see that light before you do. And they're like, oh, we got to contain this. We got to contain this before that person gets a whiff of the power, the energy, and the aura that they have that could possibly change the world. We have to dim that light now before it's even discoverable to them. Do not let people dim your light. Be careful of who you let access you. Be careful of what you access yourself to. I think that's the way I'm trying to say it. Or make yourself accessible to. because any and every opportunity the enemy has to pull you away from who God has called for you to be, he will take it. He will take it. And if you don't have that foundation, if you think that you have to show up perfectly to even be accepted into building that foundation, that is the furthest thing from the truth. You could show up today, right now. You could be in the midst of sinning right now and be like, actually, God, I choose you. And that's all it is. That's all it is. That is all it is. And that is all it ever will be. At least this week. Not for real. Thank y'all for joining me. Another episode of Unhinged Christian. I did want to close out with a prayer. I just wanted to say, God, I really appreciate you giving me this platform to spread your word, spread your love, spread your goodness to any and everybody. Not everybody that listens has to be a Christian, has to be anything really. I just wanted to give myself and people that are in the same predicament as me or in the same stage as me in life a space to really say their hard truths and speak their truths and use it as a stepping stone or a means to guide them on their walk and their journey with you. And even if it's not with you, Lord, I'm just here to give people a space to feel safe, to feel seen, and to feel heard. I hope that in that a message is received. If not, that is okay too. Please guide, protect, and love all of us how you continuously do. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all next week. Don't look, it's Wednesday. We halfway through the work week. We halfway through a week of being off, whatever your situation is, halfway through the schoolwork. We halfway. Don't let them people stress y'all out. Okay? Friday is right around the corner. Bye, y'all.